So, you think money is complicated? Pause twos. Nah, it started with a toe. Grug's toe, specifically. Pause ones. One morning, Grug was walking barefoot across the cave floor, as you do, and wham! Right into a rock. A very pointy, very sparkly, very unlike any other rock. Grug grabbed his foot, hopped around, screamed at the ceiling. Then he looked down, and there it was, a chunk of quartz, glittering like frozen fire. Pause twos. He forgot the pain instantly. He picked it up, held it to the light, turned it, gazed at his own reflection in it, and he smiled. That slow, smug, I have discovered something important smile. Pause ones. Did he know what it was? No. Did he care? Also, no. All he knew was, shiny thing make brain feel good. Pause twos. Now, Grug hadn't eaten yet. His stomach was making sounds like a dying mammoth. Just then, another cave person walked past. Let's call him Random Cave Guy, carrying a fish the size of a small log. Grug's eyes locked onto it. He lunged, tried to grab the fish. Random Cave Guy yanked it back, grunted. Grug panicked. His hand was still holding the shiny rock. Without thinking, he shoved it toward the guy. Random Cave Guy stared at the rock, then at the fish, then at Grug, then back at the rock. He took it, dropped the fish into Grug's arms, and walked away, looking deeply confused, but also kind of pleased. Pause threes. Grug stood there, holding a fish. No rock. His brain broke a little. Pause twos. He devoured that fish in under a minute, bones and all. And then he stared at his empty hand and whispered, magic. The rock had become food. The rock was a food machine, a shiny, hard, non-edible food machine. Pause twos. So naturally, Grug went looking for more magic rocks. He found a dull gray pebble, no sparkle, no fire inside. He didn't care. He ran to a different cave person, this one holding berries, and held out the pebble, grinning. The cave person squinted at it, shook their head, pointed at the rock and made a face like they'd just smelled something bad. Grug's grin fell off a cliff. He looked at the pebble, looked at the berries, shook the pebble angrily. Nothing happened. That's when the first economic theory was born inside Grug's head. Only some rocks have the magic. The sparkly ones. Pause twos, so he did what any reasonable cave person would do. He gathered a whole pile of shiny rocks, a mountain of glitter. He scooped them up in his arms, chin resting on the top rock, and marched to where the other cave people were lounging. He held up one rock, then pointed at a slab of meat. Pointed at the rock, at the meat. Rock. Meat. He did this about 7 times. One cave person tilted their head, walked over, took the rock, gave him the meat. Grug's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. He handed another rock to someone else and got a handful of berries. Then another rock, a giant leaf full of mushrooms. Pause twos. He was doing it. He was turning rocks into food, on purpose. And with every trade, Grug's chest puffed out a little more. His strut got bouncier. His chin went higher. He wasn't just a caveman anymore. He was an inventor, a genius, the smartest thing in a loincloth. Pause ones, and that was the exact moment Grug decided he was going to build an entire system out of shiny rocks. Pause twos. Spoiler, it did not go well. Grug didn't waste a single sunrise. He stomped over to the big, flat cave wall, the one everyone walked past every day, and he started scratching. Big, chunky pictures. One wobbly fish. Next to it, one wobbly circle. That meant one shiny rock equals one fish. Then he drew a mammoth leg. Under it, 2 circles. Then a whole lizard. 5 circles. He stepped back, admiring his work, nodding like he'd just invented language itself. Then he turned around, pointed at his wall, and grunted very loudly. The other cave people gathered. They squinted. They tilted their heads. One guy poked the drawing of the fish. Grug slapped his hand away, held up a shiny rock, and wiggled it near the fish. Then he pointed at the guy's fish. The message was almost clear. Almost. It took a few tries and a lot of dramatic pointing, but eventually they got it. Rocks could get you stuff, and Grug had a lot of rocks. Suddenly, everyone wanted rocks. A quiet little spark lit up behind their eyes. Not understanding, just want. That's when things got wobbly. Grug, feeling the power surge through his chest hair, decided to price everything. And I mean everything. He ran around the cave area, slapping rocks onto objects. A stick, one rock, a pile of dry leaves, 2 rocks, a sleeping turtle. That poor turtle had a rock placed on its shell. It didn't wake up, which honestly made it funnier. Grug pointed at a patch of warm sunlight on the ground. He put a rock on it. Then he stood in the sunlight, spread his arms, and grunted at a cave person nearby. The message was insane. You have to pay me to stand in this light. The cave person just blinked. Grug grunted louder. He pointed at his own breath. He puffed out his cheeks and blew air, then held out his hand. 2 rocks for breathing near him. I am not joking. He actually tried to charge for air. The cave people were confused. But confusion is a very close cousin to anger, and anger was starting to show up to the family reunion. Some of them, though, caught on fast. One cave person, a bit sharper than the others, started hoarding shiny rocks. He didn't trade them for fish. He didn't trade them for mammoth ribs. He just collected them. He sat in a corner, arms wrapped around a pile of glittering stones, grinning with a kind of greed that hadn't been invented yet. The first rich caveman. And he looked ridiculous. He had rocks. He had nothing else. But he felt powerful. Grug saw him and felt proud. He'd made that happen. That was his system. Then came the first debt. A cave person wanted a giant mammoth rib, but had no rocks. Grug, now fully in his banker era, generously offered 2 rocks. He held up 2 fingers, then 3 fingers, and pointed at the sun. Tomorrow, you pay back 3. The cave person nodded, not fully understanding the concept of interest, but definitely understanding the concept of, I'm hungry. The next day, Grug showed up with a stick. The cave person had no rocks. Grug chased him in circles around the cave, whacking the ground, screaming about rock debt. It was the first loan sharking, prehistoric. But the real chaos started when someone discovered you could make rocks shiny. One clever cave person found a dull gray pebble, rubbed it with wet sand and spit, and buffed it until it gleamed. He walked up to the food pile, held up the fake shiny rock, and got a whole fish. Grug saw this. His brain melted. That wasn't supposed to happen. He grabbed the rock, licked it, squinted, and realized it was just a regular rock with a glow-up. The first counterfeit rock. The first scam. And Grug had no way to stop it. He tried to point at the rock and scream, fake. But who could tell the difference? Everyone just saw shiny. So now everyone started rubbing dirt on rocks and passing them off as valuable. The market flooded with shiny rocks. Suddenly, a rock wasn't worth a fish. It was worth maybe a fish scale. A tiny, stinky fish scale. Inflation hit the Stone Age like a mammoth falling out of a tree. Grug stood in the middle of the cave, surrounded by arguing cave people. Someone was crying because they'd traded their entire hut of sticks for a pile of rocks that were now worthless. The rich caveman was wailing, his pile of rocks now just a pile of rocks. The guy with the debt was still running. The counterfeiter was trying to rub rocks on his own head. And Grug, with his arms raised, tried to shout over the noise. He pointed at his wall of prices. He pointed at the rocks. He pointed at the chaos. And for a split second, he looked like he was going to fix it. But then he just shrugged and grinned. This was the economy. His economy. And it was working exactly as he imagined. Completely broken. And he was proud of it. Pause twos. That's when the first cave person threw a shiny rock at his head. It wasn't a trade, it was a review. The rock smacked Grug right between the eyes. Pause twos. He wobbled, he blinked, and for one beautiful moment, he looked genuinely confused. Then another rock flew from the crowd. Then another. Soon the entire cave was a blizzard of shiny, worthless rocks. Everyone was throwing their money at Grug. It was the first market crash, and Grug was the stock exchange. Pause threes. A caveman held up a perfectly round, glittering rock, stared at it with pure hatred, and smashed it with a bigger rock. Another one tried to eat a rock, realized it wasn't food, and spat it at Grug. The rich caveman from before, the one with the giant pile, was now buried under his own wealth, literally. Just a little mountain of pebbles with two legs sticking out, kicking. The market had corrected itself. Grug, covered in tiny pebble bruises, crawled onto his pricing rock. He raised a fist, still gripping a single shiny rock. He tried to shout something, probably something about supply and demand, but nobody listened. A stick flew past his head. Then a half-eaten lizard. The economy was in free fall, and Grug's face, that smug, stupid face, was lit up with absolute joy. He watched the chaos, the screaming, the rock throwing, the collapse of everything he had built in just one afternoon. And he whispered to himself, whispers, "Beautiful." Pause twos. Then he stood up tall. He puffed out his chest, and he roared, "Grug invented economy." A mammoth rib bounced off his head. He didn't care. Economy is when rocks fly. Another rock. And people scream. Another rock. And everyone is mad. He was getting pelted, but he was glowing. This was his masterpiece, a complete, undeniable disaster. The cave people gave up. They threw the last of their money rocks into a pile, set the pile on fire just to feel something, and went back to trading fish for berries. No rocks, no prices, no debt, just food, just simple, boring, stable barter. The Stone Age economy had reset itself, and Grug, alone in the middle of the cave, bruised and beaming, held up his last shiny rock. He kissed it. He tucked it behind his ear like a little shiny trophy. He had invented the economy. Sure, it lasted about as long as a sneeze, but it was his sneeze, and he was proud.